Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. The gleam of ceramic caught my eye before I even noticed the ring. Claire had placed it in the small dish we'd bought at that art fair in Fells Point 3 summers ago. The same dish that usually held her car keys and loose change. Now it cradled her wedding band, positioned with the kind of deliberate precision that made my chest tighten. I set my laptop bag down slowly, keeping my expression neutral as I processed the scene she'd arranged. She stood on the opposite side of the kitchen island, her posture unnaturally straight, hands folded in front of her like she was about to deliver a presentation. The barrier of granite countertop between us felt intentional. "I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice carrying that rehearsed quality I'd started noticing in our conversations lately. Steady, measured, like she'd practiced this in the mirror. I glanced at the ring again, then back to her face. "I'm listening." She took a breath, and I watched her fingers intertwine more tightly. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about where we are, and I think we need some space to evaluate our relationship independently." The words tumbled out in a rush at the end, despite her obvious preparation. I noticed the wine glass on the counter beside her, half empty. Liquid courage. "How much space?" I asked, my tone even. 30 days. She met my eyes for the first time, searching for something. No contact. No trying to fix things or talk it out. Just time apart to really think about what we want. I looked at the ring again. It sat in that dish like an accusation, catching the overhead light. And the ring. I can't wear it while I'm figuring this out. It wouldn't be honest. Honest. The word hung in the air between us. I studied her face, cataloging the details I'd been too busy to notice over the past few weeks. The new manicure. The fact that she was wearing perfume at 7:30 on a Thursday evening. The way she kept glancing at her phone, which lay face down on the counter, even though no notification had sounded. "When did you decide this?" I asked. The question seemed to catch her off guard. She blinked. "It's been building for a while. I just finally got the clarity to articulate it." That's not what I asked. I kept my voice calm, analytical. The same tone I used when reviewing data inconsistencies at work. "When, specifically, did you decide we needed 30 days apart?" "I don't know, Jordan. Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She shifted her weight, and I saw the first crack in her composure. "A few days ago, maybe a week. I wanted to be sure before I brought it to you." A week. I filed that away, my mind already pulling up a mental timeline. The late nights at work had started 6 weeks ago. The password changes on her phone and laptop about 4 weeks back. The emotional distance, 3 weeks. And now this. 30 days of separation, announced on a Thursday night when she smelled like expensive perfume and wore a dress I'd never seen before. "So what exactly do you plan to do with this freedom?" I asked, watching her carefully. She launched into what was clearly a prepared speech about personal growth and rediscovering herself outside the context of our marriage. Words like independence and emotional clarity got thrown around with the confidence of someone who'd read articles about conscious uncoupling. The whole time, her fingers kept fidgeting in the space where her ring should have been. I let her finish, then asked the question she wasn't expecting. "Do you want me to stay here, or should I find somewhere else to live during these 30 days? She faltered. I hadn't really thought about logistics. "Should I tell your parents, or will you handle that conversation?" "My parents." Her voice pitched higher. "Why would we tell them?" "Because you just announced a month-long separation from your husband. That seems like something family should know about." I paused, holding her gaze. "Unless you're planning to keep this quiet?" "I just think it's private." "Is it? Because you said we need to evaluate independently. That sounds pretty definitive to me." She was unraveling now, her carefully constructed presentation falling apart under questions she hadn't anticipated. "You're making this more complicated than it needs to be." "Am I?" I straightened up from where I'd been leaning against the counter. "You've asked for 30 days without your wedding ring to figure out if you want to stay married. I'm just trying to understand what that actually means." "It means I need space to think. About us. Or about your options." Her face flushed. "That's not fair." "You're right. Let me rephrase." I kept my voice level, watching her micro-expressions. "You've already made your decision, haven't you? This isn't really a break. This is a test to see how much I'll tolerate before I call it what it is." "You're overreacting," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. This isn't about another person. I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the tells I'd been trained to notice in my work. The way her eyes flickered to her phone, the defensive posture, the deflection instead of denial. In the span of perhaps 30 seconds, everything crystallized. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't about our marriage. This was about her wanting permission to explore other options while keeping me as insurance. All right, I said finally. 30 days. But understand what you're risking. That caught her off guard. I saw the slight widening of her eyes, the way her mouth opened slightly before she caught herself. She'd expected tears, bargaining, maybe anger. My calm acceptance clearly wasn't part of her script. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, I continued. Tomorrow I'll make other arrangements. You don't want to fight for us? The question came out with an edge of disappointment that confirmed everything I was thinking. You just took off your ring and asked for 30 days apart. What exactly would I be fighting for right now? Your permission to compete for my own marriage? She had no answer for that. The silence stretched between us, heavy with things unsaid. I'm going upstairs, I said, picking up my laptop bag. I think we've both said enough for tonight. I walked past her, close enough to catch the scent of her perfume again. Something new, something she'd never worn around me. At the base of the stairs, I turned back. She was standing exactly where I'd left her, staring at the ring in its ceramic dish. One more thing, I said. These 30 days, I'll be using them the same way you are, to evaluate my options. I didn't wait for her response. I climbed the stairs and closed the guest room door behind me, my mind already racing through calculations and timelines, piecing together a pattern I'd been too trusting to see. Through the wall, I heard her voice, urgent and hushed. She was on the phone within minutes. I opened my laptop and created a new encrypted file, titling it simply, Timeline. My first entry read, September 15th, 7:34 p.m. Ring removed. 30 days separation requested. Evidence gathering begins. The next morning, Claire was already gone when I woke up. No note, no text, just absence, which told me everything I needed to know. I called my brother from the guest room. Casey, you busy? Just finished a shift. What's up? I need a favor. Can I crash at your place for a while? There was a pause on the other end. Casey knew me well enough to hear what I wasn't saying. How long is a while? Few weeks, maybe. I'll explain when I see you. Couch is yours, brother. You okay? I will be. I hung up and stared at my phone for a moment before calling in sick to work. I had accumulated vacation time and a situation that required immediate attention. Not the kind of attention Claire expected. The methodical kind. The kind that came from spending years analyzing patterns and identifying outliers in data sets. Her laptop sat on the desk in our home office, password protected. I tried our wedding anniversary first. Nothing. Then our dating anniversary. The screen unlocked immediately. Sentiment had made her predictable. I spent the next 3 hours going through browser history and email, my analytical mind cataloging each piece of information with the same detachment I'd use for a work project. The searches told a story. How to tell husband you need space. Is emotional affair cheating? Taking a break from marriage healthy? The timeline told another. These searches started 6 weeks ago, before she'd changed her passwords. Her email revealed restaurant reservations I'd never been part of. Confirmation for a room at Hotel Monaco on September 8th, a weeknight when she'd claimed to be working late on a project deadline. I screenshot everything, storing it in a cloud account she didn't have access to, then carefully cleared my own tracks and shut down the laptop, leaving everything exactly as I'd found it. My phone buzzed. Claire, where are you? Your car isn't here. Giving you the space you asked for. I'm staying at Casey's. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came through. That's not what I meant. We can still share the house. Mixed signals aren't healthy for either of us. You wanted independence. I'm providing it. Another long pause. Fine. Whatever you think is best. I noted the timestamp, the delay in her responses, the shift from confusion to irritation. She'd wanted me physically present but emotionally distant. My absence disrupted whatever plan she'd constructed. I made one more call before leaving the house. Lisa Ramon's office answered on the second ring, and when I explained I needed to see an attorney immediately, the receptionist worked me in for Saturday morning. The law office occupied the third floor of a renovated building in Mount Vernon. Lisa Ramon was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that reminded me of the data scientists I worked with. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking occasional notes. "You're here before things escalate," she said when I finished. "That's smart. Most people wait until they're served papers or catch their spouse in the act. I prefer to be proactive." She smiled slightly. "I can see that. Okay, here's what you need to know about Maryland law." For the next hour, she walked me through equitable distribution, the importance of documentation, and the reality that my higher income and larger contribution to our joint assets meant I had more to protect than Claire probably realized. "The hotel receipt is good," Lisa said, reviewing the screenshots I'd sent her. "But one instance can be explained away. You need a pattern. Multiple instances across multiple weeks. How long should I wait? Until you have evidence that's undeniable. People get sloppy when they think they're in control." She leaned forward. "Your wife thinks she's managing this situation. Let her keep thinking that. The more comfortable she gets, the more mistakes she'll make." I paid the consultation fee from my individual account and left with a clear action plan. Patience, documentation, strategic positioning. The same approach I'd use for any complex data analysis, just applied to a failing marriage. That Sunday, Claire's parents invited us to their anniversary dinner at the Rusty Scupper. 42 years of marriage, and they wanted to celebrate with family. Claire texted asking if I'd still attend. "Of course," I replied. "They're family." When I arrived at the restaurant, Claire was already there, seated between her mother Patricia and her sister Melissa. I noticed immediately that she was wearing her ring. "Just for tonight. Just for show." Patricia stood and hugged me, holding on longer than usual. "Jordan, honey, you look tired." "Work's been demanding," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. Claire's father Douglas shook my hand with his usual firm grip, his eyes searching mine with the directness of a man who'd spent 30 years in the Navy. "Everything good with you, son?" "Getting there, sir." Claire performed throughout dinner, touching my arm when she laughed, referencing inside jokes from our early relationship, playing the role of devoted wife so convincingly that I almost forgot about the ceramic dish sitting empty on our kitchen counter. Her phone buzzed 4 times during the meal. She ignored it the first 3 times, checked it on the 4th. I watched her face, saw the micro-expression she tried to hide, a slight softening around her eyes, the ghost of a smile before she caught herself. She excused herself to the restroom, phone in hand. Douglas watched her go, then turned to me. "She takes that phone everywhere now." Patricia nodded, concern evident in her expression. "It's that new position. So demanding." "Yes," I agreed quietly. "Very demanding." When Claire returned, she was more subdued. I made my excuses shortly after, claiming an early meeting. Patricia hugged me goodbye, whispering, "Call me if you need anything." In my car, I pulled up our shared cell phone account online. The call log was revealing. One number appeared repeatedly, every evening between 8 and 10 p.m., calls lasting 20 to 45 minutes. I ran a reverse lookup. Philip Brennan. The name meant nothing to me, but a quick search of Claire's company website showed his face in the leadership section. VP of Sales. Late 30s, conventionally handsome, wearing the kind of smile that probably charmed clients and apparently charmed my wife. I added the information to my encrypted file and drove to Casey's apartment in silence. The next week followed a pattern. Claire would text during the day, casual messages that felt like breadcrumbs meant to keep me engaged. I responded politely but briefly, never giving her the emotional reaction she seemed to be fishing for. On Wednesday, she asked me to come by the house that evening. When I arrived, I found candles lit and music playing. She'd changed into a dress I'd once told her I liked, and wine sat breathing on the counter. "I miss you," she said, moving closer. "It's been 8 days." "Is that all?" She reached for my hand. "Feels longer." I stepped back gently. "Claire, you asked for 30 days to evaluate independently. We're barely a quarter of the way through. Mixing signals doesn't help either of us think clearly." Her expression shifted from invitation to frustration. "So you're punishing me?" "I'm respecting the boundary you established." I kept my voice even. "Unless you're saying you want to end the separation early?" She was trapped by her own framework. If she admitted she wanted to reconcile, it invalidated her entire justification for the break. If she pushed forward with the separation, she lost the emotional safety net of my availability. I just thought we could still be close, she said finally. Close while separated? That's called having it both ways. I moved toward the door. I'll let you get back to your evaluation. Her text arrived 10 minutes after I left. You've changed. I stared at it for a long moment before responding. No, I'm just listening to what you said you wanted. 2 days later, Claire started mentioning Philip in conversation. Casual references dropped into text messages like grenades. Philip made an interesting point in our meeting today. Team's going to happy hour. Even Philip's wife is coming. They seem really happy together. I recognized the tactic. Triangulation. Making me jealous to regain leverage. I responded to each message with polite disinterest. That's nice. Hope you have fun. Never giving her the reaction she sought. When she pushed harder, asking directly if it bothered me that she was spending time with colleagues, I replied simply, "You're an adult. I trust you to make appropriate choices." The word trust sat heavy in the text, exactly as I intended. It placed the responsibility entirely on her shoulders. That Friday evening, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Is this Jordan Mitchell? Speaking. Hi, this is Stephanie Brennan. We haven't met, but I'm married to Philip Brennan from your wife's company. She paused. I think we should talk. My pulse quickened, but my voice stayed calm. I'm listening. Can we meet in person? I'd rather not do this over the phone. We agreed on Spoon's Coffee House near the Inner Harbor the next morning. Stephanie arrived 5 minutes early, a woman in her mid-30s with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that reminded me of the nurses who'd cared for my mother during her final illness. Thank you for meeting me, she said once we'd both gotten coffee. I know this is awkward. I appreciate your courage in reaching out. She pulled out her phone. Philip's been distant for about 2 months. Changed his password. Working late constantly. Last week, I saw text messages before he started deleting them. Messages with someone he'd saved as just see. She showed me screenshots. Nothing explicit, but the intimacy was undeniable. Can't wait to see you again. This timing is complicated, but we'll figure it out. You make everything feel possible. Your wife asked for a separation 2 weeks ago, didn't she? Stephanie asked. 30 days to evaluate our marriage independently. Stephanie's laugh was bitter. Philip told me he's working on a major project for the next month. Said he'd need to be highly focused, might need to stay late, or even overnight at the office occasionally. Same timeline. Exactly. She met my eyes. They're not even being smart about it. They think we're too trusting or too stupid to notice. There's a difference between trust and willful blindness, I said. I've been documenting evidence for the past 2 weeks. So have I? She pulled out a folder. Hotel receipts. 3 different locations over the past 6 weeks. All weeknights. All charged to a credit card he thought I didn't know about. We spread the evidence across the table between us. Hotel Monaco, September 8th. Inn at the Colonnade, September 15th, the same night Claire had asked for our separation. Hotel Indigo, September 22nd. The pattern was undeniable. What do you want to do with this information? I asked. I want the truth out in the open. I want them to face consequences. And I want to do it in a way that doesn't make us look like vindictive, jealous spouses. I have an attorney, I said. She's been advising me to wait for an undeniable pattern before confronting. I think we've reached that threshold. Stephanie nodded. What did you have in mind? We talked for another hour, comparing notes, building a timeline, discussing strategy. By the time we left, we had a plan. Not revenge. Something cleaner. Truth with witnesses. The next week crawled by. Claire's attempts to manipulate me grew more transparent. She tried vulnerability, crying about how confused she felt. I listened with polite sympathy, but maintained my boundaries. She tried creating jealousy, mentioning Philip more frequently. I responded with bland pleasantness that gave her nothing to work with. On October 3rd, I sent her a text. I've been speaking with an attorney. Just getting information about options. She called within 90 seconds. An attorney? Jordan, why would you need an attorney? Same reason you needed 30 days apart. Evaluating my options independently. This was about taking a break, not divorce. What's the difference? I asked. Because legally, they start looking similar after 30 days in Maryland. You're overreacting. I'm being practical. You asked for independence. I'm preparing for what independence might mean long-term. She became frantic then, her composure completely shattered. I never said I wanted a divorce. You didn't say you wanted to stay married either. You said you needed to evaluate. So am I. I paused. I'll be available to talk when you have clarity about what you actually want. Until then, I'm using these 30 days the same way you are. I ended the call. Her texts came in rapid succession. Accusations, pleading, blame shifting. I read them all and responded only once. All further communication should go through attorneys. With just days remaining before the 30-day mark, I met with Lisa again, bringing everything Stephanie and I had compiled. She reviewed it with the careful attention of a surgeon examining an X-ray. This is airtight, she said finally. The question is, how do you want to proceed? I want the truth on record, with witnesses who matter. Family. Her parents deserve to know what's happening before Claire spins her own version. They've been good to me. I owe them honesty. Lisa nodded slowly. Having Philip's wife there adds credibility. Shows this isn't just your marriage failing. It's a pattern of deliberate choices by both parties. We set the date for October 15th, exactly 30 days from Claire's original request. I spent the following days making final preparations. Secured a lease on a one-bedroom apartment in Mount Vernon. Opened a new bank account and transferred my portion of our joint savings. Changed my direct deposit. Packed my essential belongings into boxes I stored at Casey's. Claire's desperation increased daily. I think I'm ready to end this break early. I made a mistake. Why won't you respond? Each message revealed her growing panic at losing control of the narrative. On October 14th, I sent one final text. Let's have a proper conversation tomorrow evening. I've arranged for us to talk with some people who care about both of us. 6 p.m. at the townhouse. What people? Why can't we talk alone? See you at 6. October 15th arrived with the crisp clarity of autumn in Baltimore. I spent the day at work, maintaining normalcy, then drove to Federal Hill early. I let myself into the townhouse with my key and positioned the packed bag I prepared near the front door, then laid out the evidence packets on the coffee table. Stephanie arrived first, then Patricia and Douglas Hartford. Lisa came last, carrying a leather portfolio. When Claire walked through the door at 6:05, her face drained of color so quickly I thought she might faint. Her keys clattered against the hardwood floor. Her eyes moved from face to face, landing finally on mine. What is this? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Douglas stood, his military bearing evident. Your husband asked us to be here. He says there's something important we need to discuss. Claire's gaze locked onto Stephanie. Why are you here? Stephanie remained seated, her calm a stark contrast to Claire's visible panic. Because my husband and your marriage have apparently become entangled. I thought we should untangle them together. Patricia reached for Claire's hand, concern evident. Honey, what's going on? Claire pulled away, turning to me with fury and fear competing in her expression. This is completely inappropriate. Our marriage is private. Like the 30-day break you told your friends about? I asked quietly. Or like the hotel stays you've been keeping private? The silence that followed was absolute. Even the traffic sounds from outside seemed to fade away. Douglas's voice cut through the quiet. Hotel stays? I distributed the packets I prepared. Manila folders, each containing printed evidence organized chronologically. Call logs showing the pattern with Philip's number. Credit card statements highlighting charges for 2 at expensive restaurants. Copies of hotel receipts. Text message excerpts that, while not explicitly sexual, carried unmistakable intimacy. 6 weeks ago, I began, my voice steady. Claire started working late consistently. 4 weeks ago, she changed passwords on her phone and laptop. 3 weeks ago, I noticed emotional distance. 2 weeks ago, she requested this 30-day separation and removed her wedding ring. Patricia's hand had moved to cover her mouth as she read through the evidence. Douglas's jaw clenched tighter with each page. The separation wasn't about evaluating our marriage, I continued. It was about creating plausible deniability while pursuing a relationship with her colleague, Philip Brennan. Claire found her voice, rising in volume and pitch. You investigated me? You went through my private things? Lisa spoke for the first time. Accessing shared accounts and shared devices is an invasion of privacy when one party has reasonable suspicion of infidelity. Your husband exercised due diligence. Stephanie stood now, holding her own evidence. I found the same patterns with Philip. Same timeline. Same excuses about work stress. Same hotels on the same dates. She looked directly at Claire. Same lies. Claire pivoted to attack. You don't know anything about our friendship. I know my husband came home smelling like unfamiliar perfume, Stephanie replied, her voice level. I know he deleted texts from someone saved as C in his phone. I know he charged dinners for two when he claimed to be at solo work functions. She paused. I know he's been staying at hotels on nights when you were supposedly working late. Patricia's voice broke. Claire, please tell me this isn't true. I watched Claire cycle through responses. First denial. These are just business dinners. Then minimization. Nothing physical happened. Blame shifting. Jordan's been emotionally unavailable for months. Finally, victimization. I was confused and lonely. Douglas stood, his voice carrying the weight of disappointment I'd never heard from him before. Stop. Just stop talking. He turned to me. What do you need from us, son? I pulled out the final envelope. I need you to understand the truth before Claire constructs a different narrative. I need you to know I didn't give up on this marriage lightly. Inside the envelope were divorce papers. Signed. Filed. Irrevocable. Claire's composure shattered. You can't just throw away 4 years like this. I'm not. I kept my voice gentle but firm. You did that on September 15th when you took off your ring to see what life looked like without me in it. Patricia stood, approaching Claire with tears streaming down her face. Did you sleep with him? The question hung in the air. Claire's silence was answer enough, but finally, she nodded. Patricia stepped backward as if physically struck. We raised you better than this, Douglas said, his voice heavy with grief. I picked up the bag I'd positioned by the door earlier. I've moved my belongings to a new apartment. The townhouse is in both our names. My attorney will contact yours about dividing assets. You have 60 days to refinance and buy out my equity, or we'll list it for sale. Claire's final attempt at manipulation came out as desperate pleading. Jordan, please. Can we talk alone? Just 5 minutes. We've had 30 days to talk. You chose to spend that time with someone else. I moved toward the door, then turned back to Patricia and Douglas. I'm sorry you had to learn about this like this. You deserved a daughter-in-law who honored your family. To Stephanie, thank you for your courage. I hope you find resolution. To Claire, my attorney's contact information is in the packet. All future communication goes through her. Douglas extended his hand. We shook, and in that gesture, I felt his respect. You're a good man, Jordan. You handled this with more grace than most would manage. Patricia hugged me, her tears dampening my shoulder. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I left without looking back. The door closed with quiet finality, sealing off one chapter and opening another. The weeks that followed unfolded with predictable precision. Claire's attempts to reach me followed the exact pattern Lisa had predicted. First came rage, scathing voicemails and text messages accusing me of public humiliation and cruelty. I blocked her number and let my attorney handle all communication. Then came bargaining, routed through mutual friends. Brian Kemp reached out with a carefully worded email suggesting I'd been too harsh, that Claire was struggling, that maybe we should talk. I thanked him for his concern but declined to engage, explaining that he was getting one side of a multi-sided story. The professional fallout was swift. Stephanie had filed a formal complaint with the tech startup's HR department about the workplace affair. Both Philip and Claire were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Within 2 weeks, Philip had resigned. By the end of October, Claire's employment was terminated for violation of company ethics policies. I focused on my own life with the same methodical attention I'd applied to documenting her betrayal. Joined a gym and established a morning routine. Started therapy to process the divorce healthily rather than just powering through. Reconnected with college friends I'd neglected during my marriage. Casey noticed the changes first. You seem different. Lighter somehow, he said one evening, still wearing his Baltimore Fire Department t-shirt from his shift. I'm reclaiming energy I was spending on trying to fix something that was already broken. Work became a refuge and a proving ground. The focus I'd previously diluted across a failing marriage concentrated entirely on my career. The promotion I'd been working toward all year came through in December, senior manager of data analytics. 18% salary increase and a team leadership role. Your predictive modeling has been exceptional, my boss said during the promotion meeting. Whatever you've been doing differently, keep doing it. Just paying closer attention to patterns, I replied. January brought new beginnings in unexpected forms. My therapist had helped me work through the initial anger and betrayal, giving me tools to recognize healthy versus manipulative relationship patterns. By late January, we both agreed I'd made significant progress and could reduce sessions to monthly check-ins. I joined a dating app, more out of curiosity than serious intent, and matched with Nina Wells. Her profile mentioned she was 31, worked as an accountant, and lived in Mount Vernon. Details that intrigued me because she seemed grounded and had no connection to Claire's world. Our first date at Artifact Coffee was refreshingly honest. Full disclosure, she said, stirring her latte. I'm coming out of a long relationship, taking things slow. Same. Separated. Divorce finalizes in March. Messy. The situation was messy. The resolution was clean. I paused. No kids. Clear boundaries. No lingering drama. That's impressively mature. My ex keeps texting about needing closure. In my experience, closure is something you give yourself, not something someone else provides. She smiled. I like that. We dated casually through winter. No pressure, no rushing, no games. Just two people being honest about what they wanted and didn't want. It felt revolutionary after years of reading between lines with Claire. The townhouse sold in early December for $485,000. After paying off the mortgage, I received $67,400, reflecting my 70% contribution to the down payment. Claire received $28,800. She'd retained an attorney in November and initially tried to contest the division, claiming equal contribution, but couldn't provide documentation to support it. On Valentine's Day, I received a card in the mail with no return address. Claire's handwriting was immediately recognizable. I think about us every day, she'd written. I see you've moved on. I hope she knows how lucky she is. I hope you remember the good times. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope you're happy. I know I'll never be. I read it once, felt a pang of genuine pity, and filed it with my attorney's copies. Just documentation, in case Claire's contact escalated. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Nina and I had dinner that night at the Bygone, talking about her upcoming CPA exam and my consideration of an MBA program. Forward-looking conversation. Healthy and grounded in reality rather than nostalgia. March 3rd arrived with the finality of a door closing. Lisa called that morning with news I'd been expecting. It's done. Judge signed the decree. You're officially divorced. That was relatively quick. No children, no contested assets after the house sale, and she didn't fight the evidence. Fastest I've seen in years. That evening, I took myself to dinner at Woodbury Kitchen. Not celebrating, exactly. Just acknowledging an ending and a beginning. I thought about the past 5.5 months and realized I'd lost a wife who never truly valued me, but gained something more important. Self-respect, clarity, a career trajectory I'd neglected, physical health, a new relationship built on honesty. The 30 seconds it had taken me to recognize Claire's betrayal for what it was and start planning my exit had been the best investment I'd ever made. 1 week later, my doorbell rang unexpectedly at 8 p.m. I checked the peephole and saw Claire standing in the hallway, wearing an expensive coat and the wedding ring on her right hand now. I considered not answering, but decided one final conversation might provide the closure she'd been seeking. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Thank you for opening the door, she said. You have 5 minutes. I came to apologize. Really apologize, not the defensive sorry I gave at my parents' house. She took a breath. I've been in therapy, working on understanding why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. Okay, I know I don't deserve another chance, but I had to try. Had to tell you I understand now what I threw away. You were patient and kind and stable, and I mistook that for boring. She laughed bitterly. Philip dumped me 3 weeks after everything fell apart. Said I was too emotionally needy. I'm sorry you're hurting. Is there any chance? No. The word hung between us, final and absolute. She nodded, tears falling. I knew the answer before I asked. I just had to hear you say it. I've met someone, I said gently. It's new, but it's healthy, built on honesty from day one. That's what I deserved then and what I have now. Does she know how lucky she is? It's not about luck. It's about two people choosing to respect each other consistently. That's not luck. That's intentional. I wish I'd been intentional with you. So do I. But you weren't, and I can't build a life on wishes about who you might have been. She wiped her tears. Can I hug you goodbye? I don't think that's a good idea. She accepted it with a nod. Goodbye, Jordan. Goodbye, Claire. I hope you find what you're looking for. I closed the door and leaned against it, feeling the weight of genuine closure settle over me. My phone buzzed. Nina, how was your evening? Had an unexpected visitor. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. But I'm good. Really good. Looking forward to hearing about it. Proud of you. I set my phone down and looked around my apartment. Small but mine. Organized how I wanted it. Quiet. Peaceful. A space I'd built for myself, not compromised into shared misery. September 15th marked 1 year since Claire had removed her ring. I was having dinner with Nina at my place when she mentioned the date. Did you realize what today is? I paused, genuinely not having marked the calendar. What? 1 year since your ex asked for that separation. You're right. I set down my fork. 1 full year. How do you feel? Grateful. That 30-second decision to start planning my exit instead of fighting changed everything. Nina reached across the table for my hand. I'm grateful too. If she hadn't been selfish and stupid, you wouldn't have been available when we matched. True, but I also wouldn't have been ready if things had dragged out. The clean break let me actually heal. Later that evening, after Nina had gone home, I received an email from Patricia Hartford. Dear Jordan, Douglas and I realized it's been a year since everything fell apart. We want you to know we still consider you family. You handled an impossible situation with remarkable dignity. Claire moved to Philadelphia in May for a fresh start. We're working on rebuilding our relationship with her, but that doesn't diminish what she did to you. You deserve better. If you're ever in Annapolis, dinner is always open. You'll always have a seat at our table. With love, Patricia and Douglas. I typed a response immediately. Patricia and Douglas, thank you for reaching out. Your support during that difficult time meant more than you know. I'm doing very well. Career is thriving. I've met someone wonderful, and I'm genuinely happy. I'm glad you and Claire are rebuilding. Everyone deserves a path to healing. I'd love to take you up on dinner sometime soon. Perhaps next month? I'd like you to meet Nina. With appreciation and affection, Jordan. I hit send and closed my laptop. Outside my window, Baltimore's lights reflected off the harbor. Inside, everything was quiet, peaceful, exactly as it should be. Claire had wanted 30 days to evaluate her options while keeping me as a safety net. I'd needed 30 seconds to recognize the pattern and start building my exit. That decision, made in the kitchen of our Federal Hill townhouse while staring at a wedding ring in a ceramic dish, had set me free. Not free from marriage. Not free from commitment. Free from accepting less than I deserved. Free from tolerating disrespect disguised as complicated emotions. Free to build something real with someone who chose me intentionally every single day. The 30-day ultimatum was supposed to keep me waiting, uncertain, available. The 30-second decision gave me my life back. And that made all the difference. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.